Beanies can be a bit intimidating, right? But they're surprisingly so easy to make, and the only thing you need is patience, a yarn, and a hook. Anyone can make it. So let's dive headfirst into the cozy world of crochet and create something beautiful together. And don't forget to have fun. So here is everything that we need, and we'll be using 2 yarns, white and red, but you can use any 2 different colors of your choice, and they're all 50 grams, 100% acrylic with a 1.9mm hook. We're going to be needing a stitch marker, a chalk, a tape measure, sewing needle, and also scissors. If you don't have a stitch marker, no problem, you can always use a safety pin. As you can see on the picture, it's the little metallic pin. So let's get into it. Here are the measurements. So when you fold the beanie at the bottom, it's actually 8 inches, and when you unfold it and measure it, it will be 11 inches, and the ears are 14 inches. We're going to start by making a slip knot, and this is how the yarn looks like. So you're going to fold it like this, and it's going to have this circle. Take the long side of the yarn and insert it inside this circle like this, and then pull both ends, and it will create a knot, and that's how you make a slip knot. So now take your hook and insert it inside this loop that you have right here, and pull the yarn like that to make the knot loop a little bit smaller. And now we are going to crochet a total of 96 chains. So I'm gonna see you after you've made your 96 chains. My 96 chains are already complete. I hope you've done yours as well. So now let's move on to the second phase, and now we are going to start making single crochet stitches at the back side of the chain, and this is the back side. It has these little bumps, and this is the front part, which is very smooth. So we are going to turn the chain and work on the back side, the side where it has those little bumps. And now we're going to start making single crochet stitches. You're going to ignore this first bump right here, and we're going to crochet our first single crochet stitch inside this second bump right here. So this is where I'm going to insert the hook. Yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through, and that's our first single crochet stitch. Now we're going to make single crochet stitches across the row, and we will make a total of 73 single crochet stitches. So keep making the single crochet stitches until you make the 73rd, and then I'll show you what to do next. After making 73 single crochet stitches, this is how the pattern looks like. And when you look at your work, you realize that we have these extra stitches remaining. And when you count these back bumps, there are 22 in total. So now on the 74th stitch, we are going to make a slip stitch. So on this stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again. And that's how you make a slip stitch. So now the total number of chains of stitches here are actually 74. Chain 1 and turn your work. Now we're going to keep making single crochet stitches. So insert your hook into the second stitch from the hook right here. And make a single crochet stitch. Yarn over, pull through, and that's our first single crochet stitch. And since we made a slip stitch, now the total number of single crochet stitches we will be making going backwards are going to be 74. So keep making single crochet stitches and make sure that at the end you have 74 single crochet stitches. So this is the last stitch on the row and also my 74th stitch. So we're going to make a single crochet stitch right here. And this is how our project looks like. We now have 2 rows. Chain 1 and then turn your project. And now we're going to make another single crochet stitch right here. Always remember to work on the second stitch from the hook. So mine is right here. This is the second stitch from the hook. So now we're going to keep making single crochet stitches across the row, and they're going to be 74 in total because of that slip stitch that we made earlier. Now when we look at our project, you're going to realize that the stitch at the end is starting to be less visible, so we are going to need to mark it so that when we come back around we don't skip it. So we're just gonna place a stitch marker right there so that we know where it is. And now continue making single crochet stitches until the end of the row. And now I've done my stitches and we're at the end of the row, and this is my 74th stitch right here, and it's also less visible, so we're going to need to mark both ends. So after I've increased the number of stitches on this side, I'm also going to mark this part with a stitch marker. So on our 74th stitch, we are going to make a single crochet stitch. And now we're going to be working on the bumps. So this bump right here is going to create our 75th stitch. Now we're going to make a single crochet stitch here. That's our 75th stitch. And then on our next bump, we are going to make a slip stitch. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again, and that's how you make a slip stitch. So now the number of stitches have increased by 2, so now there are 76 in total. Chain 1 and then turn your project. Now we are going to continue making single crochet stitches, and we're going to insert our hook on the second stitch from the hook. So make a single crochet stitch, and now we are going to mark this stitch because it is our first stitch here. So let's go ahead and mark this. And now we are going to continue making single crochet stitches across the row, and since we've increased by 2, we are going to make a total of 76 single crochet stitches. I'm at the end of the row, and we're going to remove the stitch marker and make our 76th stitch right here. So make a single crochet stitch, chain 1, and then turn your project. And on this stitch we're going to make another single crochet stitch. Let's mark it. Don't forget to mark your first stitch. So we are going to mark it. And now continue making single crochet stitches, and they are going to be 76. So see you at the end of the row. Now we are at the end of the row, so let's finish up making these single crochet stitches. This is my 75th stitch, and now let's remove the stitch marker and make the 76th single crochet stitch right here. After this point, we are going to increase, so insert your hook into the next bump right here and make a single crochet stitch. And this stitch is going to be our 77th stitch, and then insert your hook into the next bump right here and make a slip stitch. So yarn over, pull through, and pull through again, and that's our 78th stitch. So we've increased by 2. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and turn your work. So basically just chain 1 and turn your work, and this is how the pattern looks like. So you're going to keep making single crochet stitches forward and backwards, and then increasing by 2. And this was our 5th row, so now you're going to make the 6th row, and they're going to be a total of 78 single crochet stitches. And then on row 7, after making 78 single crochet stitches going backwards, you're going to make 1 single crochet stitch and 1 slip stitch, and then you chain 1 and turn and continue. So see you when you've done all this up to row 23. Now we're at the end of the row, the last row, and the number of stitches on this row are supposed to be 95 in total. So 93. 94, 'And then here we're going to make a slip stitch. You need to have only one bump left. If you have 2, you've done something wrong. So only 1 bump left, and we are going to make a slip stitch on this last bump right here. So insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through again, and this stitch makes the total number of stitches to be 95. Chain 1, and now our work is complete. Now we are going to cut off the yarn. And then insert your hook into this loop right here and pull the yarn through. So now our first piece is complete. As you can see the pattern. So you're going to have to make other 5 pieces like this one, so you need to repeat the same step 5 times, and you'll need a total of 6 pieces to complete the beanie. When you complete making the 6 pieces, we are going to start crocheting them together to create the beanie. So I want you to pay attention to the top of the pieces. This is how they're supposed to be arranged when crocheting. So be very careful when you attach them together. Make sure that they maintain that shape. And now to crochet the pieces together, we're going to look for the first stitch on the first piece. And my first stitch is right here. So this is my first stitch. I'm going to insert the hook into the front loop right here, not the entire stitch, but the front loop, like that. And on this first piece, we are going to be working on these front loops of these stitches. Then on the back piece, we are also going to look for the first stitch here, and mine is right here. So I'm going to insert the hook into the back loop of this piece, like that. So the back piece, we will be working on these back loops of these stitches. These are the back loops right here. And on the front piece, we're going to be working on the front loops of those stitches. So hold your yarn on the pieces and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, chain 1, and then insert your hook inside the same loops, and make a single crochet stitch. That is our first single crochet stitch. Now we're going to carefully look for the second stitch and make sure not to miss any stitch. So this is the second stitch. I'm going to insert my hook into this front loop right here. And then on the back piece, we're going to insert in the back loop. So the back loop is right here. Take the small yarn that is hanging around and make sure that you place it on the top, at the top of the hook, so that we can hide it under the stitches. Yarn over and pull through carefully. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through, and that's our second single crochet stitch. And now on the third stitch, we are going to insert the hook again on the front loop, and then on the back piece we will look for the third stitch, and the third stitch is right here. So we will insert the hook into the back loop. Make sure that this short piece of yarn is on top over the hook so that we hide it under the stitches. This part where we are making single crochet stitches is going to be the outside part of our beanie, so we have to be very careful and make sure that our crocheting is very, very neat. So we are going to continue the same process across the row. Now I'm at the end of the row, so here we are going to chain 1 and then cut off the yarn. Insert your hook into the loop right here and just pull the yarn through. And finally, our two pieces have been connected, and this is how they look like. So you can clearly see the line where we made our single crochet stitch where it connects. So this part is going to be the outside part of the beanie. And this is going to be the inside part of the beanie. As you can see, the line is invisible here. And this side is the outside part of our beanie. Now we are going to connect the third piece, and we're going to use the same method as we did with the two pieces, and this is how they're supposed to be arranged at the top. So before you start crocheting, make sure that the pieces are aligned this way, and you're going to use the same method of crochet as we did on the with the first two pieces, and we will continue using this process until all the 6 pieces are connected together. Now all my pieces are connected, and this is my last row, my last connection. So I'm going to chain 1 and cut off the yarn. But before we cut off this yarn, you have to make sure that it's long enough, because we are still going to use it to stitch and close up the hole on the middle. So pull the yarn until it's long enough for you, and then cut it off. And now after cutting it off, we are going to pull it all the way through. It is this part right here. So let's finish pulling it through, all the way through. Let's fix this yarn. So we're going to insert all this yarn that you see here inside this hole to the other side. Remember that this is the outside part of the beanie, so we don't want to be doing anything outside here because it might mess up the final look. So pull all the yarn through this hole right here, including this long yarn that you're going to use to close up the hole. Pull it through. Turn the beanie inside out, and we're going to be stitching on the inside part of the beanie. This is the part where we use a sewing needle, so this is how it looks like. We're going to take the long yarn that we cut off, and we'll be inserting this into the sewing needle like so. Then pull it just a little bit, and this yarn is still connected to the beanie. So now when sewing the top part, we're going to be inserting the needle into alternate stitches. I mean, we will be skipping some stitches and then inserting into the next stitch. So I'll insert my sewing needle here, and then skip some few stitches, and then insert it here. And then I'll insert the needle here, and then excuse me, and there. So just insert your sewing needle into alternate stitches, not particularly in every stitch. You're going to keep inserting the sewing needle around up to the first point where you started, so you have to keep checking and keep inserting the sewing needle, and when you reach to the point where you started, that's where you need to stop. As you can see, these are the spots where I inserted my sewing needle, so they're very random stitches, so you don't have to insert your sewing needle into every stitch. You can just insert them and then skip a few stitches and then insert into the next hole that you see until you get to the first point where you started. Now I'm going to insert my sewing needle right here. This is the closest to the first point where we started. And now I'm just going to pull, and when you pull, don't pull it too tight because you might cut off the yarn and you don't want that to happen. This is how the beanie looks like after you pull. And you can see that we still have some yarn hanging over, but first let's tie a knot on this point right here. Let's cut these off, make them a little bit shorter. And now we're just going to stitch over them to make them less visible or to hide them. Any leftover yarn, we can just cut it off at this point. Now let's tie the yarn right here, and then we're going to hide it along these lines So just choose one line that you're going to use and then start sewing across it. After passing it through the line, just cut it off and it's perfectly hidden. And now our beanie is complete. If you don't want ears for your beanie, you can just skip to the end of the video to where we make the scarf for the beanie. This is how the ear is going to look, and that's the shape it's going to have. And if you look closely, the pattern is the same as the one on the beanie. We're going to start by making a slip knot. So turn your yarn like this and then insert the long part inside this circle right here, and then pull both ends to make a knot, and that's how you make a slip knot. Insert your hook inside this loop and then pull to make the loop a little bit smaller. And now we're going to start making chains, and we'll need to make a total of 121 chains. I've already done my ears, so I'm only going to use a few chains to show you what you're supposed to do after making 121 chains. After making 121 chains, we are still going to be working on the back side of the chain as we did when we were making the pieces for the beanie. So you insert your hook into the second back bump from your hook, which is this one right here. Yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through. That's our first single crochet stitch. We're going to keep making single crochet stitches across the row, and the total number of single crochet stitches we're going to be making are 120. Now I'm at the end of the row and I'm only using a few chains. So for you, you'll still need to make the 121 chains and then making single crochet stitches. At the end, make chain 1 and then turn your project. And now we're going to make single crochet stitch here on the second stitch from the hook. And continue making your 120 single crochet stitches across the row. Now we are at the end of the second row. So we're going to make a single crochet stitch right here and then chain 1 and turn your project. Don't forget to chain 1 before you turn. So now we are on the third row. So after crocheting single crochet stitches on the third row, make sure that you repeat the same steps until you have a total of 25 rows. And when we are done, our pattern is going to look like this. It's a rectangular shape. And when you look at the pattern closely, you realize that this pattern is exactly the same as the one on the beanie. It has straight lines. and we're going to be making 4 pieces of these. So 2 pieces for one ear and another 2 pieces for another ear. So you're going to repeat this same process 3 more times. This is my second one, so you'll need to make 2 more. So these are the 2 pieces for one of the ears. So now I'm going to fold this point right here, and it's going to create a triangular shape. And when you fold, please make sure that the lines align. Now I'm just going to take the chalk. This is where we use the chalk. And I'm going to hold this down, and I'm going to draw a line at the edge of this triangle. And the reason why I need this line is because this is going to tell us where we need to be stitching. So the chalk is going to act as a guidance to where we are supposed to insert our needle, sewing needle. These are the points where we are going to be stitching. You don't have to repeat the same process for the second piece, so we're just going to align them, put one on top of the other like this. Next step, we're going to be using our sewing needle. And this is how our sewing needle looks like. Now insert your yarn inside this hole right here. And then pull it just a little bit. Don't cut off the yarn, don't disconnect it from the yarn ball. So we're just going to work on our piece when it's still connected to the yarn ball. And then we are going to insert our sewing needle on this first point right here. The chalk simply works as a guidance so that we will know where to insert our sewing needle every time that we are sewing. keep sewing across this line and I'll meet you here. Now the chalk is invisible because I've already sewed across that line. And now we are at the top, basically at the top of that triangle. So we are going to close up this point, which is the middle point. Now we are going to continue stitching the next line. The chalk lines have disappeared because we've stitched over them, and this is where the triangle shape at the bottom of the ear comes from. From this point we are going to stitch from here across to some point here. For accuracy, I'm going to use this ear that's already completed to measure how long we are going to stitch to this point. So now I'm going to use this tape measure, and let's see how long we need to stitch before we start decreasing. So here it's 5.5 inches. Now let's measure 5.5 inches on this piece. Now let's place a stitch marker on that 5.5 inch spot. That is right here. After stitching to this point, we are going to reduce the width of our stitches. But first we need to make sure that we mark both sides of this piece. So I counted the number of stitches from this point all the way to where the stitch marker is, and then I also counted the number of stitches on this other side and marked it with a stitch marker. Make sure that you count the number of stitches on both pieces to make it accurate. After making those 2 points, you're going to continue stitching from where you left off. Now we are going to stitch across up to this point, and then on the other side you're also going to stitch from there up to this other point. Now after stitching from this point all the way to this other point right here, I used a chalk to draw a line. I used a chalk and a ruler to draw a line on these 2 points, and then a straight line from each of those 2 points. And again, those lines are going to act as our guidance, because remember, after we stitch up to this point, we are going to be decreasing to this point. From here, we will decrease it up to here. This is how we are going to be stitching. Now, we are going to be counting the number of lines. So from this point going inward, this is our first line. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So on our 4th line, we will start going up straight. So 1, this is the first line, 2nd line, 3rd line, and then 4th line. From here, we are going to start going straight forward. So now decrease up to 4 rows, and then on the 4th row we will start going up straight, and then on the 4th row again we will go up straight. Let's start by removing the stitch marker, and we are going to start stitching inwards from this point. And again, the chalk is going to be used as our guidance to know where we are supposed to be stitching. Now remember, we are only stitching up to the 4th row. 1, 2, 3, and 4. From this 4th row, we are going to start going up straight. So now we'll continue stitching all the way across this row up to the top here, and we'll also repeat the same step on the next side. As you can see, we went inward and then we went straight on the 4th row all the way to the top. So after tying the knot, we are going to hide our yarn along this row, and then when we are done, we're just going to cut it off. In this next part, we are going to turn this piece inside out. So basically the part that we've stitched on is going to be the inside part, and then the other part that we're turning is going to be the outside part of the ear. So just continue turning until the whole ear is completely turned. We're almost there, so just continue pulling the ear all the way. And here we are, so you can see the shape is starting to come out. So this is how the ear is supposed to look like. And the pattern on these two ears are identical to the pattern on the beanie. So now our two ears are complete, and now we're just going to stitch them on. So you're going to take your beanie and mark on the points where you prefer your ears to be. So mine are going to be on the back side of the beanie. Now we're going to stitch the ear on the point where we marked. When stitching the ear, make sure that you do it on a straight line. So the beanie's pattern has a lot of lines. So out of all these lines, you have to select one line. Like I selected this line right here, and I'm going to be using this line. I'm not just going to be randomly stitching the ear onto the beanie. So if I insert my sewing needle into this line, I'm going to only insert the needle across this line and not just any random line. So now I'm going to insert the needle into the same line. This is the same line. Again, you can see inserting my sewing needle into the same line. So basically I'm going to be sewing this ear on through the same line. And since our ear is very thick, we only stitch one side at a time. So on this front side, we are only stitching this piece right here along this line. Now that we've stitched this front side, we are going to turn our ear, and as you can see, we still need to work on the back side. We couldn't work on both sides at the same time because our ear is very thick. So now on this back side, we are still going to be using the same method we used when stitching the front side. So we are still going to use the exact same line to stitch this back side onto the beanie. This is how our stitched ear looks like. When we turn our beanie inside out, the point where we stitched is pretty much invisible, and this is the advantage of stitching across the same line. Now we are going to tie these two. And then we're going to cut it off, making sure that the two strands of yarn are the same length. Then insert the yarn inside the sewing needle, and now we are going to hide these strands of yarn along these lines. After running the strands of yarn across the line a few more steps, you can just cut off the yarn, and this is how the ear looks like. And this is how the beanie with ears looks like. And now we are going to add the skull. For the skull, we are going to start by making a magic ring. So turn your yarn like this, make an X on your index finger and the middle finger, and then insert your hook under this spot right here. Pull this yarn under and then turn, yarn over and pull through. And then remove your fingers from the circle and chain 1, and then now insert your ring finger here, and then use your thumb and your middle finger to hold the yarn and make 9 double crochet stitches. Here are my 9 double crochet stitches. Now we are going to chain 5, and that's what's going to be like the eye sockets of the skull. 3, 4, 5, and then make a double crochet stitch into the circle. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then make another double crochet stitch into the circle. This is going to be our nose, and then chain 5 again. After chaining 5, we're just going to first of all pull this string to tighten the circle. So just pull it and don't pull too hard so that you don't cut off the yarn. Then we are going to make a slip stitch into this first stitch right here to connect this piece. Pull through and pull through again, and that's a slip stitch. And then we are going to chain 1 and make a single crochet stitch into the same stitch where you just made a slip stitch. Take this yarn and put it over the hook and then yarn over it to hide it under the stitches. So continue making single crochet stitches in all of these 9 stitches. So this is 2, 3, 4. After making 9 single crochet stitches, in this hole we are going to now make 6 single crochet stitches. After making 6 single crochet stitches into the eye socket, we are going to make a slip stitch into the nose area, then chain 2, and then make 2 double crochet stitches into the same nose socket, 2, and then chain 2 and make a slip stitch into the same hole, pull through, and then chain 1 and make 6 single crochet stitches into the next eye socket. Once done, we are going to make a slip stitch again into this first stitch right here, pull through and pull through again to connect. And now we are going to cut off the yarn, and before cutting off the yarn, ensure that you have a long size of it because we are going to stitch it onto the beanie. Now we are going to pull this yarn all the way through. And after folding the beanie, we are going to place our skull on it and then start stitching. So now you're going to stitch around this area all around the skull. And with that, you have your very own beanie, ready to keep you warm and stylish through the chilliest of days. I really hope you enjoyed crocheting along with me and found this tutorial helpful. Remember, the possibilities are endless when it comes to crochet, so don't hesitate to get creative and add your own personal flair to your projects. If you loved this tutorial and want to see more crochet inspiration, please be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video from us. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Your support means the world to us and helps our channel grow. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye-bye.